all. Welcome back to the coach's call. The whistle is back. I've taken it out of my pocket, just like some referees ought to do during some games, especially maybe during those Olympics. Anyways, let's see. We're gonna try and get through a few episodes and look at some different topics as we reconvene the sports talk. And I've missed doing this for a little bit. And if you're wondering, why haven't you done it? Well, I've talked about that on some other shows, and I don't want to rehash that here. But the good news is I'm back, and we're going to start doing some shows. So one of the things I've always loved talking about is the Montreal Canadiens. And with the trade deadline looming, I wanted to look at, what might their needs be? What kind of team is the Montreal Canadiens heading into the playoffs? And for me, all season long, it's really started with goaltending. And when you look at their perceived number one netminder, which was Samuel Montembeault, I wanted to take a deeper look to start and say, what does he bring? What do we expect out of him? Now, Sam Montembeault has about 6 or 7 seasons now in the NHL. The Montreal Canadiens picked him up off of waivers from the Florida Panthers just before the 21 season. And when they picked him up, his last season in Florida for the Panthers, his goals against average was 3.34 and his save percentage was 890. And I remember thinking, why did they pick up Samuel Montembeault? And what are they hoping to do? And I thought, well, he won't be there long. This is just a stopgap. But the team started rebuilding. Sam Montembeault fit into those rebuild plans. It gave them time to look at also other goaltendings, and he surprised us with some really stellar performances in some games. But even through those seasons, he had some great performances, it felt like, but then he had some you know more valleys than hills, I always felt. When you look at his overall average, though, across both teams and that entire body of work, his overall average is 3.27 goals against and an 894 save percentage. That is that is the snapshot on Sam Montembeault. And this year, his GAA is 3.37 and his save percentage is 874. And sometimes you look at those numbers and they tell you a story but depending on what the team is doing, depending on the types of games, where they are in the standings, where they are as a team, you go, yeah, those numbers are a little low or a little high. But he's making big saves at big moments. And Sam Montembeault is not making those big saves at big moments at this time, right? His save percentage is the worst it's ever been in his entire NHL body of work. So for me, as the Montreal Canadiens are moving into trade deadline time, um, that's really where they need to start is maybe in net and say, do we have the assets within the organization to do something? Because if we don't, then we need to go outside the organization. And if you believe that Jacob Fowler can come in and maybe be the anointed next Patrick Waugh, then you roll the dice. And if you think that your team is built in a way that you can go further in the playoffs, you roll the dice. But if you think they're not, or sorry, if you think they can go further, maybe you pick up the goalie, or if you think they're not, then maybe you roll the dice and you say, let's see what happens. We're still a young team. We can rebuild and keep doing more next season, right? But they've invested a lot and they've had some flashes of showing some good playoff potential. Now, that brings me to what do you look at with the rest of the Montreal Canadiens as a team moving in or moving towards the playoffs, and what would you do with this team? Now, look at after 60 games this season, Montreal Canadiens are in the bottom third of the NHL when it comes to defense. They're worse than 21 teams. Okay. They're better than 10 teams, but they're worse than 21 teams. Their goals for are at 213, and their goals against is at 200 with for a goal differential of plus 13. And I've been watching that differential all season long, and it was in the negative for quite some time, or hovered around zero or just above. And it hasn't really given me the big shifts, right? there's some teams that have some serious positive goal differential, right? But right now, the Canadians are ranking 11th to 13th in that differential. So they do have a positive, which does indicate if you have a positive that you have potential for playoff level performance. But you have to rank that and understand how are the other teams doing, right? So for goals for, they sit in that 4th to 6th range. The teams above them, you have the Colorado Avalanche with 230, the Oilers with 220, the Hurricanes with 214. And so they're just behind that. So they do demonstrate characteristics of an elite offense. Now, when you look at defense, though, some of those same offense teams that are ahead of them are also ahead of them defensively. Like the Colorado Avalanche have 149 goals against. Montreal Canadiens have 200. Tampa Bay Lightning have 158. Montreal Canadiens have 200. The Dallas Stars have 165. The Montreal Canadiens have 200. So there's a large defensive gap for the Montreal Canadiens. So when you look at them and as a team and you go, okay, well, considering that, what are they 5 on 5? Goals scored, elite team. Goals allowed, bottom third. Still a positive goal differential. So they have that strong offensive 5 on 5 play as well, but they have a very weak defensive suppression. Okay. Now, when you look at the profile of a high offensive team, they win games like 5-3, 6-4, 4-3, right? As opposed to defense 2-1, 3-1. Now I remember back in the day as a young hockey fan watching the Montreal Canadiens thinking, "Oh, it's so stressful. They're winning goals by one game. I wish they could score more goals." And it feels like Montreal Canadiens fans have said that for a long time. I wish they could score more goals. Well, they're scoring more goals, but they're allowing a lot more goals. Okay. So goals scored, top five, goals against, 22nd, goal differential 12th, overall standing ninth in the NHL. So the Montreal Canadiens are not a defensive team this season. They are succeeding because they have top tier scoring, which demonstrate a moderate goal differential. So, and they have enough wins to sit ninth overall. Can you ride that into the playoffs? You could ride it into the playoffs, but I don't think it's going to win you the playoffs. And that's what I think may happen here. If the Montreal Canadiens don't address their back end, their defense, okay? If they don't address their defense, um, I can't see them going far enough into the playoffs. Um, the other thing that we look at sometimes, and maybe it's an overlooked thing, is your regulation wins versus your overtime wins. And the Montreal Canadiens have 9 overtime wins. Look, you're playing with fire in the playoffs if you're relying on overtime. And the thing that happens in the playoffs is you don't go 3 on 3. You stay 5 on 5. So you better find a way to close those games out 5 on 5, or else it's not going to happen for you, right? You look at the Montreal Canadiens defense. Lane Hudson is a plus 22. Mike Matheson plus 10, plus 12. Noah Dobson plus 10. After that, you got Alexander Carrier at -4, Caden Gooley at -2, Jaden Struble at -2. There's a whole bunch of others, right? When you compare them defensively to other elite defensive teams who have defensemen in the plus 80 to plus 80 collectively, their defense, um, they're they're not there. A good playoff team will have, your averages in your plus 40 to plus 80. Average teams, mid pack, plus 10 to plus 40. Weak defensive teams, 0 to -40. Montreal's overall plus 36, it does put them in the overall, like, above average portions, but that's collectively. And it's not strong compared to the teams in front of them. So heading into the trade deadline, what do the Montreal Canadiens need? If I haven't proven it statistically, they have to make a decision in goaltending. Sam Montembeault is not your goalie for the playoffs. That I don't think he is. Not on what the body of work has demonstrated so far. Defensively, they've got some elite defensemen, but they don't play the best defense together, and they've got some gaps that they need to address there. They need a couple of closeout D-men. They can get the lead. They can't seem to hold on to the lead. They can come back sometimes and beat you offensively. The cardiac comeback kids, I guess, but that's not going to win you the games in the playoffs. So trade deadline, Canadians, goaltending, defense. Let's see what they can pull out. Um, Thank you for joining me on a comeback whistle is out of the pocket show for the coach's call. Hope you're back more often as I am. Take care. Let's see what happens.